It's stage 2 at the Austin Major, and we're going to be kicking off this round of demo reviews by looking at s1MPLE'S first CS2 major game, and in this match he debuted against Heroic, who they've had a little bit of banter with before this event. Of course, if you didn't see, s1MPLE called them, quote, you know what, bots, and then they had a little bit of Twitter banter and everything was going well, and it was time to decide who was going to come out on top in this first match. And I'd like to break down this game as well as how good I thought s1MPLE played right after a quick word from SkinsMonkey. This is a trade site that allows you to take some of the old and crusty skins out of your inventory and you can actually trade them in for something a little bit new, a little bit shinier than what you have right now. And it's really easy to do this actually. All you need to do is log in through Steam, pick the skins that you don't want to use anymore, grab the ones that you do, and then click trade. All trades will pretty much happen immediately, and any balance that you don't use in your trade actually stays on the site for you to use for any future trades that you decide to do. And right now, if you use the link in the description, you can actually get a 35% deposit bonus, and that's good for up to $100. So let's say you deposit $100, you would actually get $135 on the site if you use my link. So make sure you check out SkinsMonkey, and let's hop right back into the video. Now, given that FaZe had a little bit of banter on Twitter with Heroic before this match, we knew that they had already set the stage for some sort of aggressive game where they were going to be going back and forth, and FaZe really wanted to assert their dominance and prove that they are the better team. And they start this with a nice B push in the pistol round. Of course, Elige and s1MPLE are going to be making their way in towards underpass, where s1MPLE is actually going to try to trade Elige after he goes down, and he's going to hit some fantastic shots here with the first one onto LNZ and the second one onto s1MPLE'S. Overall, though, I really like this style of CS from FaZe. It's very, very explosive, and especially when you have the individuals like s1MPLE, and Rain is back as well as Elige. Frozen's been playing fantastic. It is very, very potent, and if you get the right combination in terms of like if you push into the right players at the right time, it can pretty much win you the game in a dominant fashion. Now, pistols are very important since all of these games are best of ones. Some of them could outright be decided by winning the pistol as well as getting the conversion on both sides. We'll actually talk about this because I plan on double uploading. We're also going to talk about the Lin Vision versus Falcons upset, and if you haven't seen that, just stay tuned. It should be up in a few hours. But in that game, they won both of the pistols as well as the conversions, and I think that that has a lot of weight in these best of ones. Now, after they win the full eco, Kerrigan is actually going to call for a 4A start, and I absolutely love this. Of course, Dust 2 is a map that is heavily dictated by the spawns that you get. For example, if you get the majority in this cluster right here, you're most likely going to go long, as well as if you get the majority of the cluster on this side of T-spawn, you might do an early B hit. Now, this is the first gun round, and since they decided to take a full eco in the previous round, Kerrigan knows that it's very likely that they have AKs as well as a little bit of utility, but something that would most likely result in a fast play and most likely no op. Now, of course, s1MPLE'S does have an op, but this is a glass cannon with no utility, and that's always going to be the risk. But my point is that they decide to gamble early in this game to start 4A. Now, the idea here is, of course, Frozen is throwing a little bit of utility, and they just are waiting for Heroic to come out long. We'll see a really good example of them actually coming out into FaZe later, but this is the setup to their conditioning. They're going to take long, and they have Elige doing a Joker in towards Cat. Now, if you don't remember what the definition of Joker is, this is when you have somebody start somewhere where they shouldn't really be, but it could catch somebody off guard. But if nobody goes there, you also get the extra map control. As you can see, we've been given long. Kerrigan's going to be holding it while s1MPLE rotates, and Elige knows that Cat is clear. Now, after a while, s1MPLE is going to come back here and hold this flash, and once Elige spots them, that flash is actually going to do really good work. If Elige decided he wanted to re-peek, he would have had some T's that were blind, but instead he chooses the safer option that given this is a first gun round, and he's going to drop CT and reposition towards Goose. Now, of course, the idea here is he's going to be holding this God flash that we've talked about many, many times on my Clips channel and my Shorts channel. This flash is so strong, it's just a middle click, and if they're coming up Cat or Short, basically, they can't see the flash and you get a kill. Now, s1MPLE will be baiting for him in this instance, and he's throwing a lot of utility to try to keep them away. This molly that he actually just threw is a lineup, and the idea is to stop the T's from progressing. Of course, the only way for the T's to really get up is to come around here, and they would be in the molly, so Elige can keep them further back. But it's actually better than that because they're further back. Elige's flash is actually going to be better. See, FaZe have been putting in quite a bit of work, but it is also Dust 2, and this stuff has been standard theory for a very long time, or at least as long as I've been watching the game. Of course, Heroic are actually running a mid to B where they have LNZ getting into spawn to hold the rotates. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't go well, and they get picked apart, and FaZe will win the round. s1MPLE doesn't get any kills, but it is still cool to just see how he fits into this system regardless. Now, after they win that last round, they know that they have Heroic on a half buy, and Simple is going to take advantage of this because, of course, he knows he's not playing against an op, and he's going to immediately peek mid. Of course, like I said, Sampaius could have a scout. They know it's a half buy, but Simples feels very confident that he would win that fight. And he's exactly right, because after he doesn't see Sampaius in top mid, he checks the left side of Palm Tree, and he's going to get the opening. Now, he knows that Heroic's win condition is most likely some sort of mid play. Seeing as how Sampaius was just top mid, what Simple is probably thinking is that Sampaius was going to clear this mid angle so that somebody could walk lower and Sampaius could flash them through. This is a very common play. You might even see this in pugs. So that's exactly why once Simple realizes that it's not likely anyone's here, he's going to leave before things get out of hand. He's going to back up. Remember, they have the gun advantage, so he's going to make sure that he uses the op so that way he can't get caught off guard on these close range fights. Exactly, by the way, what I said happened is happening. They're walking out mid, and if Simple would have stuck around, there's a pretty good chance that he would have gotten one, but then immediately traded, and the round can get out of hand after that. And Simple is a very experienced player, so he knows better than to give over an op. And yes, he is in contention for the best player of all time. He might even very well be, but he doesn't want to make any small mistakes like that. Now, the setup is also overall very good for FaZe. They recognize this. It's not just Simple making a micro play. The rest of the guys actually decide to make a setup around this. You actually can see that Frozen is getting in towards mid, as well as Simple still holding. Elysia is still spotting as well. And when the actual mid play does come in here, he's going to have a little bit of support here. As you can see, Elysia is going to nade the smoke, and they're planning on making sure that nothing can get out of hand in mid. Now, the reason I'm breaking down all these rounds instead of just looking at Simple's POV is because I also want to make the case that FaZe actually put in a ton of work in this boot camp that they did, and I actually think that they could go pretty deep into this major. Now, in the second gun round, we do see Simple on the op again, and this is another one of those rounds that's going to be very important in the early game. Now, since we know that Heroic is on their full buy, it's very standard for us as the FaZe guys to go for some long control because, like I told you before, it's just, you know, they're expecting them to go long, but Kerrigan actually calls for them to do this start. Now, what's going to happen is Simple is going to get boosted up onto Cat, so that way he could potentially look lower. Of course, he gets mollied off, and then they go into the boost, but they're playing double Cat. Now, in the meantime, what we've missed is that Kerrigan actually has thrown 2 flashes for Frozen to peek long, and Frozen mollies long doors. Now, this is important because they have gambled 4 towards A. Yet again, this is the second time they've done this. Rain is all alone. He's actually playing out of the site. He's completely letting Heroic have this. But Heroic have no way of knowing this. They're doing a very good job at masking what's actually happening. Now, if we check this from Heroic's perspective with the X-ray off, what they see is this molly in towards long doors, and they hear the flashes that are popping in the air. So they're most likely expecting that FaZe has done a traditional long take with 3, and since they have their mid door smoke up, naturally, what Heroic is going to plan to do is to just take Cat. They've even shown as much by throwing the smoke as well as the molly to prevent this peek that Simple just tried to go for. Now, of course, what you're probably thinking if you're watching this as well, isn't it obvious that this could be happening? Not really, because you wouldn't expect Frozen to just be taking long by himself. And by the way, once they do recognize what's happening, they try to walk up Cat with no utility. You might think that this is a mistake from Heroic, but like I said, this is actually kind of being forced. FaZe is forcing Heroic to think that they are long so that they will try to take Cat. It's just the natural flow of a map. I told you, and every single demo review I do, if you take map control, you have to take something else. It's just a yin and yang. So one thing gets pushed and the other one gets taken, right? Same thing happens here. You take long, we take Cat. But this is a gamble where we pretend to take long, but we're actually playing for Cat. So they walk up with no utility and they get outplayed. And also, as an added little piece of extra info, after Kerrigan threw those flashes, he actually rotated to B. So there was only like a 10 to 15 second window where Rain was by himself, and once Kerrigan gets here, then Rain gets into the site. It's just an overall really well-crafted round, and it's just something that I really enjoy watching from FaZe. Now, Kerrigan isn't stupid. If you haven't paid attention, we've already seen 2 starts towards A long where there was 4 players for the CTs, then we saw one where there was only 1. Now, this time we're actually going to get a round where there's 2, but Kerrigan's going to do a beautiful job at masking. So what we have here is Elysia throwing the long smoke for them, and then he's just going to rotate B. That way they can start 3B, and it's very strong. And then Kerrigan is going to flash for Simple to get on this long angle until Elysia's smokes pop. Now, what happens is, again, like I said, from Heroic's perspective, they have taken long yet again, and Kerrigan actually didn't throw those flashes, so there is no sound cue. However, Simple will throw this nade, so they know that we took it, and once Kerrigan gets established in the pit, he's going to tell Simple that he needs to rotate. Now, the only thing that goes wrong in this round is that Rain gets spammed through the smoke, which is actually going to force Simple's rotate a little bit faster, and he's actually going to cheat in towards mid, and Kerrigan's going to give up long. It's a pretty well understood concept at the highest level in CS that they probably aren't out long until you hear a flash, because it's just way too risky and there's too many angles to contact. That doesn't mean always, but it does mean that if you're in a 4v5, you can get away with this. So Simple's actually, or Kerrigan, I mean, is going to come back and he's going to flash Cat. A lot of this is sound cue baiting. What he's trying to do is make it look to Heroic like they're refighting Cat, so that maybe they panic out mid or panic out B because they have the opening, when in reality they actually have a stack and they're playing for this. So he's trying to force them to do what they're strong with. Now, Heroic is going to be a little bit wise to this, so they're not going to panic. They're going to take towards Cat, and we have a little bit of time here for Simple to actually back up, and he's going to catch S1MPLE'S on this overextension. Because, again, S1MPLE'S probably isn't expecting somebody to be playing Goose because it's too risky because, well, you know, it's just too risky, really. And he's going to get caught. Now, it's a 4v4. Simple throws this flash that we've been talking about, and then he's going to get away. Now, of course, we've rotated completely off of B because we saw and heard a lot of people coming up Cat, as well as S1MPLE'S going down. This goes back to the nameplating concept that we talked about, where S1MPLE'S is the opper. He's not a lurker, so if S1MPLE'S goes down, pretty good chance the majority of the Ts are going to be there, which is why they felt so comfortable to rotate off. Now, we do end up in a 2v2 where Simple is actually going to end up all alone after Kerrigan dies, and despite his best efforts, he's actually not going to win this one. But either way, it's a really good round, and honestly, they probably would have won it if Rain didn't get spammed through the smoke. Now, in the interest of time, I won't show you the beginning of this round, but I'll just say that they did another long take, but this time with 3, something more standard, and Simple is going to have a Cat exec thrown on him. Now, he's going to throw this smoke at the bottom of the car, and if you played CSGO, you might actually remember what this is. This used to be a one-way that you could throw for yourself, where you could stand on top of the car, and you could actually see anybody scaling up Cat. Now, I don't know if Simple threw this out of instinct. He just remembered that this was something that was really strong in CSGO. But in CS2, this doesn't work. So instead, he just has a smoke that he can play around. He's going to be safe. He gets the first kill, but then he ultimately decides to just flash off, repost. He doesn't see anything. He accidentally blinds himself, but he realizes that it's better for him to just play his life. He's going to slowly back away until his teammates are able to help him. But again, I just included this because I thought it was funny that he threw a CSGO smoke that doesn't actually do anything in this. Now, you could argue that, oh, he threw it because it would put out mollies and he could hide, but no, he just threw it because he thought it was the one way, and then he realized that that doesn't work in this game, and they still win the round, so it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Now, you might have actually seen this clip because this is a round where Kerrigan actually yells at Heroic at the LAN center because he says, I called an anti-long pop, and guess what you did? Long pop. Now, what's actually funny about this is that based off everything we just covered, he's actually been conditioning this the entire time because, like I said, he knows they're not dumb. They've been playing 4 long, then 2 long, then 1 long, and then they had a couple of standard rounds, and he knows that this is very likely to be the time where they get the long spawns because they haven't had them yet, so he decides to call for the anti-long pop. Now, you can steal Simple's flashes here because they're very strong. These are just going to be simple left-click throws, no pun intended, and the idea is once they come out long, well, they're going to be getting blinded by Simple's flash, which will make it really easy. And actually, I want to show you something else that's really cool that Kerrigan does. So what he's going to do is once he sees this corner smoke, he's actually going to flash above the roof, and then he's going to run through with Simple's flash. As you see here, he's coming through the smoke because he knows that if anybody is on the other side, they will be blind, and he can catch them off guard, which is exactly what happens. It is the perfect call, supported by some really nice flashes from Simple. But again, this is all built up because of the conditioning that Kerrigan has been doing the entire game. Now, after Heroic win a 1v2 that they really shouldn't have won, Kerrigan decides that he's going to put them in their place, and he calls for some mid aggression. Now, this is going to be Simple walking in mid. He's actually pre-aiming for the jump spot, and the reason, and I've accidentally went back, the reason that he's going so far forward is just in case they do smoke mid doors, which they actually missed it, so somebody called the nade police. But even if they had called for the mid smoke, he should actually be able to see them jump spotting, and he will be not exposed to anything that's coming. But he can also double up here and hold in towards under for frozen if he needs to, or he could peek after or first or second, whichever one. This is a very good mid setup, which they're actually going to run again in the next round, where Elige is going to be here behind this pole. Now, this is actually a really good angle, and I'll show you why next round in particular, but this mid setup is basically just to assert their dominance. Now, they're able to do this because of a concept that I talked about earlier, where you're just playing light on B. I told you earlier that there's an a window of time where you could get out B for free because Rain's not really contesting it because it's too risky. They're just going to play for the retake. And here's an example of a round like that. Rain's playing further back, and he's just going to be killing them as they're coming out. He's far away, and in Heroic's mind, they look like noobs, right? But they're actually just checking car. They're checking these left cubby. They're looking back sight. They're not expecting Rain to be the only guy B shooting you from the door. So they have a set protocol for executes where they're clearing all these cubbies that they know that Rain likes to play. But Rain's really not there, because if he's there, he's going to go 1-for-1, and then they have to retake in a 4v4, and it could be weird. But instead, they just decide to play fully out of B. Rain's going to get 3, and then Simple is going to actually get 1 here. As soon as this smoke fades, he's going to peek car, and another kill. A beautiful call from Kerrigan, but actually, one thing that's better than you're thinking is that since they actually didn't see it, remember, from Heroic's perspective, again, I keep saying this because it's important to remember, Heroic actually never saw this, so Kerrigan says, just do it again, and they do. They do it exactly the same way, same roles, same everything. Kerrigan, or Simple, is going to see the smoke. He sees now that he couldn't hold that angle that he was holding before, so he's going to walk in towards tunnels, and now Elise is going to get the action. Now, I talked about this a second ago, but the reason why this is so good is, first of all, if they throw a flash like this, it actually will not blind him because it's going to cover his face, and second of all, when they come out mid, you see this pole is going to do a pretty good job at obscuring the right side of his body so that he can actually use his head, because obviously you see out of your head, to have a good advantage. Typically, we talk about right eye, left eye peaks, but this is going to be really strong because he can jiggle back and forth behind this and, of course, play anti from the flash. In the meantime, Simple is actually going to pick up a kill, and I'll rewind it so you can see it as well. And once he sees the mid stuff's coming in, he's going to step out here and absolutely obliterate S1MPLE'S. This mid setup is absolutely beautiful, and there's really nothing you could do, and FaZe will go on to win the round with no real dramas. Now, after losing the pistol round, FaZe is going to go for a full eco. They just got deagles on everybody. We just saw them all spread out and take a couple of shots, and we end up in this round where it's Frozen and Elige coming up cat. Now, Elige is going to be going first because he's low. Their best bet here is to just get down the bomb so they can buy next round and maybe get Simple and op. As you see here, they're creeping up, and Frozen is going to have quite the round, which is why we're highlighting it. A fantastic shot onto Xfloud, but now he's in a 1-on-3. Typically, in a situation like this, you would just try to get the bomb down. Now, he does know that there was somebody in towards long, and it's pretty common at the highest level to abuse this rotate. What I mean by that is if somebody's long, you might just leave because it's really easy to do, or if you're cat, same thing, or if you're rotating from mid, you might go long, right? It's a kind of pretty common concept, and Frozen actually gambles that there is nobody long, and in this case, he's going to be right. He sees that flash and nobody peeks off of it, so he knows one CT, and if there was somebody long, surely they would have peeked with that flash, right? So he's going to gamble nobody's there. He still checks it just because, and then he's going to peek cat, and I'll just let the clip play. He hits a deagle collateral, and then he knows that that last guy was CT. He peeks and kills him on the jump up, and he wins the first ever 1v3 with a deagle with 2 bullets. Yes, I know. 1v3 with the deagle with 2 bullets. That's the first one I've ever seen at a major, and it was a spectacular clutch. And the reason I'm including this in the Simple review is because, well, that's pretty much what broke Heroic's back. After they won the pistol, they lost a 1v3 to Frozen, and then FaZe is on cruise control. Now, the last round here is just pretty much everything that you would expect. Simple gets the long spawn, and he's going to go for this pick, feeling confident he can actually just completely do whatever he wants. He knows that they don't have any guns, and that's going to be the kill. They're going to decide that they just want to end B. I'm going to fast forward because you know the natural conclusion of this. They've killed everybody. Simple is going to come in towards B, and he's going to hold the flank because earlier in the half, he made that exact play that S1MPLE'S just made, and Simple is going to end his first CS2 major game 17-5 with a 2.03 rating, only a little bit under Frozen because Frozen had that spectacular clutch, but overall a fantastic debut. And of course, Simple would go on to win the next game here. FaZe are 2-0 as of the time of recording, and they have a best of 3 versus Legacy to make it to stage 3, and I will cover that game if you guys would like to see. And just let me know if you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel. The support on this channel has been absolutely outrageous for the last month, and I just want to say thank you guys very much. If you guys like watching me break down these games on the YouTube channel, you might like watching me watch the games live. I've been co-streaming the entire major on my stream at twitch.tv/AustinCS_. There is a link in the description. I would appreciate if you came. If you want to come watch the games with me, I'll break them down live, or you can just watch my recaps here. That's it for me, though. I appreciate you guys. Let me know who you want to watch next, and there is another video coming, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Bye-bye, and much love as always.